And joining us is Carl Niehaus, who is NEC member of the MKNVA. Adil Nchabileng is Transform RSA president. Thanks so much, gentlemen. Good evening to you. And let's just start, Mr. Niehaus. I think this is crunch time because all rests on the elective conference in December. If the ANC cannot get its house in order, there is a greater risk of even performing worse in the 2019 elections.
Well, I've got no doubt that the approach that we had seen from the statement, one that is working for unity, rejecting the idea of just simply an overall slate, and putting policies first rather than individuals is the way to go. And I'm pretty sure that the African National Congress, as it had done in the past, whether it was at Morogoro, whether it was at Kapwe, and any of the other periods that we were going through difficult times, will put together and will eventually put policy first and then decide on how we will elect the leaders that will serve those policies. I'm very happy that this statement emphasizes the issue of radical socioeconomic transformation and especially also emphasizes that we have to address the problem of white monopoly capital and the control that it has over the South African economy.
One would argue that it depends which ANC you speak to, because having covered the policy conference, there wasn't any consensus on whether it's white monopoly capital or it is devoid of any race. And so it's the problem now in persuading, I suppose, the branches and the greater voting community of South Africa that the ANC indeed is the only party that can lead us forward. Mr. Nchabileng, your view?
Look, we must say, as Transform RSA, that we're quite concerned when political parties, particularly given the ANC's history and culture, has to meet in order to deal and deliberate and debate issues of political slates as to who succeeds who and who's going to get what sit on the table. The issues affecting South Africa have nothing to do with political slates of succession. It has to do with the issue around the economy. That is why the policy of radical economic transformation is quite critical. And the issue relating to the aspect of land. Those are two critical issues. So if the meeting had set aside adequate time while discussing other issues, particularly of succession, as to how they are going to do the aspect of the power sharing, and the loser still gets accommodated, should have been the emphasis on not only unity, but the aspect of transformation in the economy, which is still a big issue at the stage that we're sitting with.
All right, so the facade, if we can call it that, maybe Sasekane Manzini and Mpumalanga ANC spokesperson can clarify that. Is this a desperate measure for the ANC to project a united front while we know that there are bigger issues in the country that you're not confronting?
Thank you very much. I think the gentleman there is correct in terms of saying that when we meet, we need to prioritize the issue of policies. Indeed, that's what the two PWC discussed. We have agreed that we must prioritize the unity of the organization. The other part of it is that we know that we have from the National Policy Conference, and there were certain issues that were not concluded because the National Policy Conference recommends so that we go and adopt the policy position in the elective conference. We have agreed that as provinces, not only Mpumalanga and KwaZulu-Natal, we must have workshops that will deal with the issues that were not concluded in the National Policy Conference in order to understand, to have the same understanding, all of us as provinces moving to the elective conference. That we have done, and we have agreed that we are going to have such workshops, not only the two, but extend it to also other provinces. You can do it through regions, or you can do it through district and all that. That's what we have agreed. And also, we have said, if you're going to a national conference on December, it's an elective conference. That you cannot dismiss. Hence, we have also agreed that we need to talk to each other so that when branches are nominating again, but provinces also find space to talk to each other so that when you go to the national conference, you don't do it like you did it in Polokwane, like you did it in Mangaung. Want to minimize divisions, want to minimize slates, so that we are become a stronger ANC after the elective conference come December.
Yeah, Manzini, please stay on the line. Is this the only other alternative for the ANC? Because our political landscape has evolved. It's not as it were before. And we know about breakaway splinter parties as a result of the loser, therefore, taking his followers, as it were. Is this the only other option for the ANC?
Well, you see, I think it's so important to understand that the ANC is not talking here about one particular slate, but it is talking about bringing people together, also people who may be from different perspectives at this point, on the understanding that we want to work for unity in the organization and that we will do so on the basis of policy positions. So the policy positions that have been spelled out very clearly, I repeat again, is radical economic transformation, dealing with the issues of white monopoly capital, and making sure that we address the problems of the majority of people in this country that are the poor. Let us deal with those issues. And let us then bring together, whether it's from one so-called slate and another so-called slate, people all together on the understanding that we here have to serve the people of South Africa as the African National Congress, and we have to put that on the basis of the foundation where the ANC always stood, which was the Freedom Charter, that the people shall govern and that the people in this country will share in the wealth of South Africa.
No, but it's fresh in memory where, John Nchitenze was saying that 9 out of the 11 commissions came out with a decision that white monopoly capital in itself is not necessarily a problem or doesn't exist. So, I mean, going into the workshops. No, I hear you.
Joel Nchitenze did not tell the truth about what happened in those commissions. There was never a head count. Yeah. There was never any way that we could say that 9 out of 11 of those commissions voted for or against white monopoly capital. It was a deliberately divisive approach from him. It was deliberately factional, and the conference disciplined him and said that he had to apologize. He refused to apologize. But if you look at the final policy proposals that came out of conference, it talked about monopoly capital, but it accepted very clearly that the monopoly capital character in South Africa is white. So there is nothing wrong for us to talk at this stage about white monopoly capital because it encapsulates the current economic situation in South Africa and what we have to face.
All right, let's invite Dumiseni Ntuli, KwaZulu-Natal ANC spokesperson. Mr. Ntuli, good evening to you, and thanks for joining us. I mean, how critical is this particular stance of creating one slate, if you will, to avoid factions and division in the party, and your sense whether it will be generally accepted by all the branches and structures?
Well, it's important that the commitment we have as a provincial executive committee in the province is that we have to find a formula that unites all our branches and that unites the entire country behind leadership to be elected in the national conference. And the reason why, for instance, we went to meet with the PwC of Mpumalanga was so that we can compare notes on the challenges that are facing the revolution in general and the movement in particular, but also to say, let's begin a process of engaging one another with an intention of producing the outcome in terms of both the policy and leadership at a national conference of the ANC, an outcome that will enjoy the support of the overwhelming majority of the ANC membership in this country.
Mr. Ntuli, just stay on the line. Adil, I think it's the implementation. The policies may be wonderful, but it has to be impact people's lives in a significant material way. So what is it you feel is critical for the ANC to attend to? Yes, it will be deliberated on during the workshops, but what in your view is most critical to attend to?
The economy is critical right now. You know, it's getting boring, Cindy, to constantly be hearing that the ANC is plagued by challenges. People all out there are looking for leadership. And leadership means that those that have been given the power right now to make decisions and to be in a position to give direction should start standing up and taking deliberate decisions to make sure that we address the economic issue particularly, because unemployment is not dependent on the talks that emerges out of Mpumalanga or KZN's deliberation at the PWC engagements. The issues of this economy are dependent on key strategic decisions. You're having conflicts. For instance, the Minister of Finance issues out a 14-point plan on Monday. On the same Tuesday, you have two provinces engaging on issues relating to slate issues, who's going to succeed who and how. On the same tone, you have the ANC being conflicted by constant messages of breaking of ranks by its members, all right? Particularly members in the MPs in the parliament and everything. So right now, we want a party that gives confidence. And the ANC should stop hopping around its limping condition and start moving strongly towards addressing the economic challenges. Unemployment is a massive issue. We have issues of joblessness. We have issues of unskilled youth. We have issues of a bulge of unemployed young people who are taken daily to the streets for protest unnecessarily. Okay, we have an issue whereby the economy is shrinking. It's getting more and more concentrated into the hands of a few white monopoly capitalists. These are not imaginations. I know there are ranks within the movement that still believes the terminology of white monopoly capital is an imagination and a figmentation. I am telling you very clearly that we are beyond the labeling of what is and what is not.
All right, let's
the issue
test,
right now is critical.
Let's test if the so-called, if you based the leadership criteria solely on policies of Mr. Ntuli, and whether President Jacob Zuma's proposal will work in this regard, primarily when it comes to, again, transforming the economy and changing the lives of the majority South Africans.
Well, I think first and foremost, I would apologize because I joined the debate a little bit later, so I don't know the name of the gentleman who just spoke now.
Adil Nchabeling.
Yeah, Nchabeling, I agree with him almost on everything that he has said in relation to what constitutes the strategic task and the agenda that we need to pursue in the current phase of the revolution. Where I hold a different view with him is when he seems to be undermine the importance of the unity of the very same vehicle that has a responsibility to discharge and pursue the national democratic revolution. I think the unity of the ANC is fundamental. Actually, if the ANC is fragmented, is not capable of providing a coherent message and a strong leadership in terms of what needs to be done in the economy, in society, in dealing with social ills, all of these problems are not going to be overcome. We did not go to Mpumalanga merely to talk about leadership. We went to Mpumalanga first and foremost to reflect on the current direction that the revolution needs to take at a policy level. But of course, we then agreed that you can have brilliant policies, outstanding policies that are praised all over the world. If you do not have a vehicle that can discharge those policies and ensure that there is a maximum impact in the lives of our people in general, then you are not going to succeed. That is why we then said, if the issue of leadership in the organization is impacting negatively to its unity and its capability to lead our people, it therefore becomes one of the strategic issues that we have to deal with in a manner that unites the organization as a whole, not in a manner that consolidates a particular faction against another faction in the organization.
All right, let's bring in Sazegane Manzini, Mpumalanga ANC spokesperson. Just your view in how critical the power sharing formula is going to be going forward, because as Mr. Ntuli suggests, if there's no unity, or rather, but there won't be any harmony in implementing those policies.
Yes, based on what Mr. Nchabeling is saying, he continues to insist that the two provinces were meeting to discuss about the leadership. But we are clarifying him to say, at no point did we discuss the issue of names. We have agreed to say the first thing that we are going to do is to prioritize the unity of the organization, which at the end is going to unite the whole country. And again, what he's saying about the radical economic transformation is something that we have discussed at length in the National Policy Conference. And we are agreeing on certain changes, and we have raised our frustration and challenges in terms of the triple challenges and what the African National Congress needs to do into the national conference so that we also finalize the issue of say how then do we deal with the challenges that we're facing as a country. That's what we have done. And also we are saying that we can't run away to say we are going to an elective conference come December. And we say we want to minimize tension in that conference so that we put more time in dealing with the real issues that affect our people, as he's saying. Hence, the engagement that says you do have 9 provinces. What are we going to do to make sure that you bring everyone together? We have got the alliance. What are we going to do to also include them and your leagues also, so that when you go there, you come up with a leadership that is going to take all the policies that we are going to debate and finalize moving to the national conference. So we are dealing with all that. And this that we are doing with the KwaZulu-Natal, you are trying a process where in the National Executive Committee said provinces must meet and try to put direction on policy and also on leadership, because we are going to an elective conference come December.
Please stay on the line, Mr. Niehaus. In terms of the leader that's going to represent the ANC and by extension the country, it has to be somebody that resonates with the populace of South Africa. Do you think, just with the current nominations that we have, that the power-sharing model is the only way to appease society, or the one winner takes it all formula?
Look, I think the power-sharing model within the African National Congress is a perfectly acceptable model. And I think that as long as that power sharing is based on the basic principles of the policies that the ANC stands for, that's why I've repeated time after time again. It is not about the individuals. The individuals will follow once the branches have gone through the process of discussing the policies. And then there will be decisions taken about who will be the best people, who will be the best leaders to implement those policies. People vote for the African National Congress in the first place. They do not vote in the first place for individuals. And we have to make sure that we put the party first, and the party gets put first through its policies. And on that basis, we can then bring together people who at this moment may be perceived to be from different political persuasions within the African National Congress. But remember, ultimately, every member of the ANC is a member of this organization. They have to accept the discipline of this organization. They have to accept the policy proposals and finally the policy resolutions that will be taken at the National Elective Conference, and they have to implement them. So let us not concentrate so much on individuals. Let us concentrate on the role of the party and the policies of the party in order.
But you have to focus on the individuals, because what they say
and hunger and address
but
the
what they
issues
say impacts
of
on perception. It impacts on how the party is viewed, on the brand, and its relevance even to the voters. If you just take Minister Lindiwe Sisulu saying that her campaign essentially is to save and restore the ANC, we have with the Cyril Ramaphosa CR17 essentially more pragmatic kind of leader, may not necessarily enjoy the same support as NDZ. But the thing is, you have to focus on the individuals. Those are the ones that articulate what the policies of the ANC is. And at the moment, it's all over the place. Your view, Mr. Nchabeling?
Well, as far as I can see, every ANC member has to express the policy. When I listen to the remarks that have been made at the last number of meetings by Comrade Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, she said very clearly that she was advancing the policy positions of the African National Congress. And you may find that there may be nuances. Comrade Lindy Sisulu may have a different nuance, but at the end of the day, all of them are ANC members, and at the end of the day, all of them have to abide by the ANC discipline and what the branches decide. Let the branches decide in December who will lead us, but especially let the branches decide what the policies will be that those leaders have to implement.
I want to go back to what the leaders say and how they articulate that very message, whether it is clear, it's succinct, it is, focuses on what the party stands for.
You see, Cindy, as Transformers, we're sitting at an advantage position. We can be critical and we can critique. And we don't have, at this stage, the responsibility to appear politically correct. And one of the issues that when you are in a situation, mostly is done is to be sort of self-inwardly reflecting. In this case, we're looking at the ANC from the outside and giving a thorough critique of what is going on. The ANC is voted nationally by over 11 million people. These are the people that matters at the stage. And the issues that are surrounding the movement in terms of who is going to inherit the silverware in the house should actually be taken out of the media space and be handled correctly within the relevant platforms. In our view, for instance, the ANC emerged out of the ANC National Policy Conference in June united. So the issue of unity is not what is trumping some of these activities. The issue of unity is something that is related to the factionary interests, all right? So out of this whole thing, they should find mediums and ways by which they can deal with it. Right now, the population of South Africa that is looking at ANC's leadership, that is led by the ANC's government, is looking at a policy-making mechanism that is going to address the constituency, the people that are voting for the ANC, that are not card-carry members, that are not actually sitting in the party and looking at the policy inwardly. They are saying that we have given our vote and our confidence to the ANC. What are we getting in return for that? That should be the prime discussion. And really, we should not be wasting tons of time reporting about factions, but talking about what the ANC is going forward to do for the people.
All right, Adil, just before we go, very briefly, Ma'am Manzini, if you can give us a sense whether the Cyril Ramaphosa, for example, or even NDZ would be satisfied with the deputy president position, depending on how the national, or rather the elective conference goes.
Yeah, as a province, I can't say which one is more relevant or is going to serve more the ANC, because the processes of nomination of candidates have not yet started. So it would be wrong for me to say which one will serve more the ANC than the other, especially because, like we've indicated, the ANC has separated the National Policy Conference to the elective conference so that we deal thoroughly with the policy, so that when we go to the elective conference in December, at least I've got an idea to say this comrade can implement better the policies that we have adopted. So now we are still waiting for the processes. We'll consolidate the views of the branches, and then we'll pronounce as a province.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Sasekani Manzini, the Mpumalanga ANC spokesperson, and we also have in studio Carl Niehaus. He is the NEC member of the MKMVA. Adil Nchabileng is president of Transform RSA, and we had Mr. Nduli Mdubiseni and Nduli. He is the ANC spokesperson in KwaZulu-Natal. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back after this.